Thank you for allowing me to speak today and for giving me the opportunity to head Dauphin County's Children and Youth Agency. Commissioner Hayes, Commissioner Priest, Commissioner Hartwick, as Oversight Commissioner, I look forward to working with you as we continue to improve the department and serve our community's children and families. I also want to thank Joe Dorr. Joe came out of retirement and literally rescued an agency that in some respects has lost its way. Thanks to Joe's work as the interim administrator, I am coming to an agency that has faced up to its problems and is already well on its way to turning itself around. My commitment to the children of our community goes back to 1994, when I began working as a deputy district attorney for Dauphin County. Soon after I started, I requested to be assigned to child abuse cases. During my tenure in the district attorney's office, I worked closely with our CYS caseworkers as we ensured children were removed from dangerous situations and that those who harmed them were punished. I gained an appreciation for the hard work and dedication shown by our caseworkers. Dedication that I expect is the same today as it was 20 years ago when I first worked with the department. I cannot think of a better motivation for getting up every morning than when you know you're helping children and keeping them safe. It's been said before that our caseworkers at times see the very worst in human behavior, and that's true. I can think of few other jobs that can be as emotionally draining. I've read the grand jury report about the problems and the mistakes that were made. I've also seen the plans of correction and know how the department has improved over the past year. I want to make one thing perfectly clear. Under my leadership, the agency will stop at nothing to keep predators from hurting our community's children. When children's lives are at stake, that must be our goal. That said, keeping families together whenever possible is a primary goal as well. If a child does have to be removed from their home, we will always attempt to place the child with other appropriate family members. Both research and state law recognize that children do best when they're able to remain in a family setting. While the investigation into Jared Tutko's tragic death pointed out significant failings, it's important to remember that Dauphin County Children and Youth has a tradition of excellence. The agency has been praised by the state for its work in keeping families together. I know a good example of this is Commissioner Hartwick's emphasis on family group conferencing, in which everyone has an interest in a family comes together to address the problems. This family-oriented focus will not change. For much of my career, I have worked to ensure that all of Pennsylvania's children are protected. After leaving the prosecutor's office in 1997 to become the executive director of the Pennsylvania District Attorneys Association, I focused on what we could do statewide to combat crimes against children. We successfully lobbied to change the law and Pennsylvania's Constitution to allow children who were victimized to testify via closed-circuit television. No longer would children be terrified by seeing the person who hurt them in the same room. At the same time, district attorneys' offices across the state were seeing the need to create dedicated teams that would specialize in investigating and prosecuting child abuse. We oversaw the Pennsylvania Child Abuse Coalition and developed and oversaw the Juvenile Prosecutors Network, which regularly meets to discuss best practices. We also sought and received money from the State Department of Public Welfare, now the Department of Human Services, to train prosecutors, police, and CYS caseworkers. As part of the training, we developed the framework for creating the first multidisciplinary teams made up of law enforcement, CYS caseworkers, and medical professionals. As executive director, I visit most of the counties in Pennsylvania to help train and organize these teams. These are the same kind of teams Dauphin County CYS and the District Attorney's Office has created to handle serious cases of abuse. We also coordinated efforts to pass tougher child abuse laws, including Megan's Law legislation, which allowed the public for the first time to find out if convicted child sex offenders were living in their neighborhood. Later in the Attorney General's office, I continued to work on child protection related issues. This included advocating for legislation that allowed the Child Predator Unit to file criminal charges against those who communicate online for the purposes of trying to have sex with a minor. For the past 3 years, I've had the privilege to serve as a member of Pennsylvania's Gaming Control Board, but I've been looking to return to a position that would allow me to advocate for children. As administrator of Dauphin County CYS, in addition to having a background in child protective work, I knew I had the management experience to ensure that this agency remains on track. At the same time, as an outsider, if you will, I come to the position with a fresh set of eyes, ready to continue to make whatever changes are needed to safeguard our children. My first priority will be to make sure the quality assurance team is up and running later this month as planned. This team will review cases at random to ensure continuing compliance with regulations and promoting best practices. I will also ensure that all staff are receiving the proper training, so there is never any doubt what action needs to be taken to protect children, the children who are depending on us. I want to thank all of you for selecting me to head Children and Youth, and for giving the agency the resources it needs, including the ability to bring on 6 additional part-time caseworkers. I know that all of us, working together, can make a difference in the lives of our county's children and help strengthen families. Thank you.